Imagine waking up every morning and knowing that your day is yours to shape. No boss breathing down your neck, no soul-draining commute, and no clock to punch. Instead, you sit down at your desk, coffee in hand, and work on something you genuinely love. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, it's a dream I've been living for the past 8 months as a full-time content creator. But let me be honest, it wasn't always this way. In fact, if you'd told me a few years ago that this would be my life, I'd probably have laughed, shrugged, and gone back to my day job. The journey here has been bumpy, full of false starts, burnout, and moments of self-doubt. And today, I want to share that journey with you, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. And if you're someone who's dreaming of making a living doing what you love, I hope my story gives you the clarity, hope, and motivation you need to take the leap. So, let's rewind the clock and start from the beginning. About 4.5 years ago, I did what many of us do when we get a spark of inspiration. I started posting on Instagram. At the time, I was training for an Ironman, and fitness was my whole world. I thought, why not document this journey? After all, social media was full of people sharing their lives and building communities. But here's the thing. Growth was painfully slow. Each post felt like tossing a pebble into a vast ocean. And as the weeks turned into months, doubt started to creep in. What if people were silently judging me? What if my friends thought I was trying too hard? That little voice in my head kept whispering, "Who do you think you are?" And eventually it got loud enough to make me stop. But the itch to create never really went away. A few months later, I decided to try my hand at YouTube. This time, I focused on personal development, something I was passionate about. I filmed videos late at night, squeezed between work and everything else life threw at me. But looking back, those videos weren't great. The quality was poor, my energy was low, and I was simply stretched too thin. After 4 or 5 months, I quit. Again. I remember feeling like maybe this whole content creator thing just wasn't for me. Maybe I was destined to stay in the 9-to-5 grind, and that was that. First taste of success and burnout. But life has a funny way of pulling you back in. One day, while messing around with friends on Call of Duty, Warzone, I recorded a funny clip and posted it on TikTok, almost as an afterthought. And guess what? It blew up. Suddenly, I had thousands of views, followers rolling in, and a community that was growing by the day. For the first time, I tasted what success felt like. The adrenaline, the excitement, it was intoxicating. So I threw myself into it. Streaming on Twitch, posting clips on TikTok, and engaging with my audience nonstop. It felt like if I just kept pushing, I could ride this wave to, well, who knew where? But here's the thing about waves. They're exhausting to keep up with. I was burning the candle at both ends, constantly glued to my screen, terrified that if I slowed down, everything would disappear. Burnout hit hard. I felt drained, irritable, and ironically, disconnected from the very community I'd built. I learned a tough lesson. Success isn't just about showing up. It's about showing up in a way that's sustainable. I needed to improve, to learn, and to take care of myself. So, I took a break. 6 months, to be exact. I stepped back, reevaluated, and asked myself some tough questions. The breakthrough strategy. When I came back, I did things differently. Instead of diving in headfirst, I decided to approach content creation strategically. I studied creators who were thriving. I read books, watched interviews, and dissected what made them successful. I came across a concept from Brendan Kane. You need to create content that's both engaging and strategically positioned. In other words, you can't just work hard, you have to work smart. I realized that while I was passionate about gaming, I wasn't bringing anything new to the table. So, I pivoted. I started creating content about streaming itself, tips, tricks, and creative tools that other streamers could use. It was an undersaturated niche, and it allowed me to stand out. This time, I paid attention to the numbers. I looked at what worked, what didn't, and why. I treated it like a business, not just a hobby. And guess what? It worked. My following grew consistently. I started getting brand deals, first for 1,500, then 1,000, and eventually much more. Knowing when to quit your job. At this point, I was still working my day job, and I knew I was approaching a crossroads. Either I took the leap and went full-time, or I stayed where I was and risked stalling my momentum. But quitting your job is scary, so I set some clear criteria. 1. I needed to see sustained revenue growth for at least 5,006 months. 2. I wanted an emergency fund that could cover 6 months of living expenses. I thought I'd wait until everything was perfectly lined up. But sometimes, life pushes you before you feel ready. The opportunities were growing faster than I expected, and eventually, I realized that if I didn't bet on myself now, I'd always wonder what could have been. So, I quit. Life as a full-time creator. The first morning as a full-time creator was surreal. No alarm clock, no commute, just me, my ideas, and a whole day to create. But let me tell you, freedom comes with its own challenges. When you're your own boss, the pressure is on you to perform. There's no one else to blame if things don't go well. Some days, the loneliness creeps in. There's no team, no water cooler chat, just you and the work. But despite the challenges, it's been incredible. My income grew faster than I thought possible. What started as 1,500 brand deals turned into 7,000 to 1,000, 10,000 a month. I've worked with brands I admire, connected with other creators, and built a business that feels truly mine. Future plans. Of course, the journey doesn't stop here. Being a full-time creator isn't just about making money now, it's about building something that lasts. So, I'm exploring ways to diversify my income. I'm working on mini courses about idea generation, offering consulting for brands, and looking into B2B opportunities. I'm also focusing on my well-being. I've started joining co-working spaces to combat loneliness, making time for social events, and reminding myself that rest isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Looking back, I've learned that this journey isn't about overnight success. It's about persistence. It's about being willing to fail, to learn, and to keep going even when it feels like no one is watching. If you're out there wondering if you should start or if you should keep going, I hope my story reminds you that it's possible. Not easy, not quick, but possible. Start today. Start messy, start with passion, and know that the world needs what you have to offer. So, what are you waiting for?